Hey, this is Cedric Youngelman, your host of the Bitcoin Matrix podcast. Thank you so much for checking out my show, where we have philosophical conversations about the economic, cultural, and psychological implications of Bitcoin. Please make sure that you're subscribed to the Bitcoin Matrix. And if you're watching this on YouTube, smash that like button so that more people see it. And put those notifications on so you don't miss out on any fresh and dope content. This episode with Gary Leland about being a great father, husband, Bitcoin, and life is brought to you by River. Buy Bitcoin with zero fees on recurring orders when you dollar cost average at river.com. Truly the best way to build your Bitcoin wealth. River doesn't use or lend your Bitcoin. All Bitcoin at River is held in secure cold storage with 100% full reserves. You can withdraw your Bitcoin at any time. Unlock the possibilities of this revolutionary digital asset with River. To get started and find out for yourself, use the link in the show notes and get $20 free when you buy Bitcoin at river.com or on the app. There's no better time than now to get your Bitcoin off exchanges. My favorite hardware wallet is the Cold Card from CoinKite, and it's definitely worth learning how to use it. Built-in sleep at night technology, ultra secure signing device for Bitcoin. CoinKite is a leader in security and hardware manufacture, established block 141,000, maker of some of the most iconic Bitcoin products such as OpenDime, the Cold Card, Sats Card, Tap Signer, Sats Chip, the Block Clock, and the Micro Block Clock. Use the link in the show notes for 5% off your order. TikTok, next block. An idea whose time has come cannot be stopped. Join your fellow Bitcoiners in Miami Beach for the biggest annual celebration of Bitcoin in the world. Don't miss out. I can't wait to see all of you there and grab an ice-cold beer in the sun. Join us in making history in Miami Beach this May 18th to 20th. To get 10% off your tickets and help support me and the show, use the code MATRIX. And now, let's enter the Bitcoin Matrix with one of the most coolest based, fun Bitcoiners out there. The man, the myth, the legend, Gary Leland.
What is real? How do you define real?
You can't jump into cash. Cash is trash. What do? You get out.
Gary Leland, the Bitcoin boomer and founder of BitBlockBoom, the world's longest running Bitcoin conference. Gary Leland, welcome back to the Bitcoin Matrix. How are you?
I'm doing really good. Kind of refreshed today. I was kind of worn out last night. I went to Austin for some Bitcoin events. South by Southwest was ending up. So Unchained Capital had a Bitcoin takeover, and the Pleb Labs had a hackathon and some other things going on. And I was scouting some locations for BitBlockBoom events. So I've been kind of on the go. I think I got about 5 and headed out Friday morning so I could drive down there and be when it started, and got back yesterday. I was kind of worn out, to be honest with you. Now that being a boomer and just turned 68, it's funny, my endurance. I feel pretty good when I get in the morning, but boy, I just can't last as long as I could. I can last, but I'm just worn out the next day. That's the deal. I can last, but the next day I feel it,
I hear you. I hear it seems like you go to a lot of events and meetups, and obviously you throw what I think is the best conference in the Bitcoin space. And we'll talk a lot about BitBlockBoom. It's going into its second year in Austin, so you're just spending a little bit of time there scoping it out. Let's maybe start there. What is happening for the 6th year of BitBlockBoom?
Well, first of all, we added another day to it. In the past, it's been Friday workshops. Actually, we had a Thursday night dinner. Everything at BitBlockBoom's a la carte. You can go to everything or one thing. So Thursday night, we have a welcome to BitBlockBoom dinner normally. Then Friday, it would be workshops. And Friday night, we had a kickoff dinner party. And then Saturday would be the conference day. Saturday night is a Vegas night party that's included in the conference day. And Sunday was a brunch. Basically for people, a lot of people went to the brunch or go to the brunch. Maybe they have a flight, at 3:00 in the afternoon or something like that. And they want to network some more while they're in town, because some people come from a city that they don't even know a Bitcoiner. So they want to get a maximum amount. They want to sit in their hotel room all day. They want to come. So usually that has about 100 people at it. But this year, that's how it's always been. This year, though, we changed the workshops to Thursday and then made Friday a full conference day, just like Saturday was.
Right.
And then Saturday. So the only difference, everything is the same, except now when you come in Thursday, you go to workshops and then the welcome to BitBlockBoom party that night. And then, and also I like to tell people go, well, you got all these events you got to pay for. But, if you add up on my events, which I call a Pro Pass, it's way cheaper than anyone else's events that has that many things, and I have some people to go, I promise you, some people just go to the Friday night party. That's all they want to go to. Now, the people who work for me, they hate that I do that. They really do. They go, come on, can't we just have one ticket to everything? And I'm going, no, some people maybe can't afford everything. Maybe some people don't want to go to everything. Maybe some people don't want to pay for the Thursday night party. Because when you're getting it in one ticket, you're paying for it, right? It's not, we all know it's not free. It's in the price. Maybe they can only come in Saturday morning and they don't want to be there and paying for the Thursday and Friday and Sunday events. So we break it down, and I've had people, last year we had a guy who paid for the Thursday night party and the Sunday brunch and didn't go to anything else. I mean, which is fine. I mean, that's what it's there for. You can go whatever you want to. But this year also we have we've got Josh will be doing a beefsteak on Wednesday night for the second time. Katie, the restaurant, will be doing her Citadel event on Wednesday, the day before ours kicks off. And I think Monday and Tuesday, Pleb Labs will be having some events. So we're kind of like, it's finally happening, which is what I had wanted to begin with, is like a whole week of activities.
Right.
I don't want to do every activity for the whole week. I ended up doing more than I actually wanted to begin with. But now it's starting to happen that the earlier parts of the week are starting to fill out. So that's what I like it to be, is people start getting in for stuff on Mondays, and then they leave Sunday brunch. And so they go to a lot of things, but it's like I said, it's an a la carte conference. You pick what you want and you go to whatever parts you want to go. You can go to all of it. You can just go to brunch. You can go whatever the heck you want to go to.
Yeah. Well, I like the a la carte approach. I've always gone all in. I kind of feel like maybe it's a little bit like getting the fast pass at Universal or Disney World. And what I really love about BitBlockBoom is how immersive it is and how much I get to build a rapport with people over a period of time because we're all at the same events. There are some things a la carte, and you could peel off here left and right, but we're all together for most of the time. The crowd is at a size where you can kind of get to know some people and see them repetitively and yet still be refreshed and keep seeing new people. So I think it's got one of the best vibes going at any conference I've been to. We recently saw each other at Bitcoin Day Naples.
Yeah, that was a good event.
That was a great event. One day thing, kind of just the speakers. It's not a whole BitBlockBoom where you get the meetings at the hotel elevator and the cab rides together and the Vegas night together. So you get a lot of different experiences and settings at BitBlockBoom. But what about?
And also we have even Tone Vase. I give him carte blanche to use the area, and he has a poker party at night every night. I mean, a lot of things are happening there that we try to work with people to make happen. But I think, unlike most events, BitBlockBoom is an event you really need to stay at the hotel because there's something happening all the time. I mean, they're up till 2, 3 in the morning bringing in pizza. People, I'm not. I'm asleep. I'm worn out. I got to be up early next morning, like 6:30, start setting up. But I come down the next morning, you could tell there was a lot happening on because all the tables will be moved, from where they were. Our vendors' tables will be. Right. They tried to put them back, but they couldn't quite get them back. So yeah, it is a little bit different than most conferences. But no, Naples had a good conference. I think it was a one-day conference. We had a lot of people were there. A lot of people at the conference that were speaking at the conference lived in Naples. I flew in. I had not been to one. Muzz, I wasn't going to go at first, and Muzz is a good friend of mine who helped set up Unconfiscatable, Muzz Venture Lightning Ventures. And he said, "No, you need to come. It's a good conference." I said, "Okay, I'll come."
Yeah, well, I got to meet Muzz at Bitcoin Day Naples, and we recorded a conversation together recently, and I've gotten involved with the Lightning Ventures Syndicate. I think it's fantastic, and that's what I love about meetups. And you can meet people in person. You find out a lot of times who you meet online is very similar to sort of the persona. But I didn't know Muzz at all from Twitter, and we've developed a great rapport. And it's been tremendous growth at BitBlockBoom. I'd like to ask you about how you manage it, but what drives you? Like I said, it's the best conference, but you, as the organizer, probably don't get to appreciate all of it as we get to as attendees. I mean, I'm sure you have some nice moments and it's rewarding, but you're working, you're busy, you're managing. What drives you to run the conference?
I started the conference back in 2000, I guess 18. I got into Bitcoin in maybe middle of 2017 before it went on its price hike. I got in at a good time. Not as good a time as 2012 or 13, but it was, it wasn't like I got in at 19.9, So even when it came down, I was still comfortable, luckily. But I did it, and I really didn't even know Bitcoin that much, but I wanted to meet people. And so I thought I'd start a conference. I had another conference called Podcast Movement. 4 of us founded this conference, and it was at the time, and it probably still is, the world's largest podcasting conference. I sold my share of that. I think we had 3,500 people at it the year I sold my share. And down in Orlando, we had 35 people. And then the next year, COVID hit. So I got out at the right time because they didn't have a conference for 2 years. So I did really good there as far as timing goes. And so I was kind of like knew the conference business a little, but 4 of us did it. So my part of it was not near as, it wasn't like it is now where I do 100% of it, but I felt comfortable that I could pull it off. And it started out as a small conference, 125 people, but I actually did it so I could meet Bitcoiners because I didn't know that many. And the funny thing about the first one, though, is that, we had Saifedean had just written his book. And I think he told me, I saw him at Miami last year. And I said, I don't know if I ever told you how much I appreciate you coming to that first BitBlockBoom. That was the first one we ever did. And he goes, I just written my book. That was the first conference I'd taken my book to. And I said, oh, I didn't know. But Safe was coming, and we were bringing down Pierre Rochard was coming from New York, and Michael Bitstein was coming. And so we had all these people coming from out of town, and we had only sold like 25 tickets. We couldn't sell a ticket to save our lives. So me and my partner at the time, Tony Casillas, we were going out at nights to every meetup we could go to, trying to sell tickets, giving away tickets, anything we could do. Because at that point, we were going to be embarrassed if we had these people come in and we had 25 people there. And I think we got it up to about 125 people, maybe, that were there. So we had a good crowd. So we were really excited that we weren't embarrassed to hilt. And then it turned out to be a great, and I think all the speakers but 2 were Bitcoin maxis. It wasn't a Bitcoin maxi conference, but it was mostly Bitcoiners. And then Saifedean, we were talking at the Bitcoin brunch the next day, which was, I have the picture, it's like 12 people, went to the Sunday brunch, where now it's always, around 100. And he said, Gary, I can truly say this is the first Bitcoin maximalist conference I've been to in the United States. I was like, really? I said, wow, sounds good to me. And so then I really started working hard on making sure, that's really got me making sure it was Bitcoin Maxi and working so hard to make it one. Where a lot of people say they're Bitcoin conference, they're pretty slack on it. Like nothing against Miami, they do a good job. But I think I've even heard the people in management say on shows, you just have to do Bitcoin to be a vendor there, which would make sense since they have exchanges, and 99% of exchanges product is shitcoins. So I mean, that's why you don't ever see an exchange BitBlockBoom. I can't be a true Bitcoin maximalist conference and have a company that 99% of their profit or their product is not Bitcoin. Right. And I've given back. I gave back a company $10,000 last year, a sponsor, because they can buy their sponsorships online, and my contract or my online on the shopping cart, it says that if I find out you're not a Bitcoin only company or a shitcoin company, basically, or I think you're going to do my attendees harm, I have the right to cancel your sponsorship and send you back your money. So I had one last year that I felt was doing harm to Bitcoiners. So I sent them back their $10,000 and never refilled that sponsorship. That's kind of hard. But, if I want to keep doing what I think should be done, that's the way you do it.
Right.
But basically, to answer your question, though, I like doing the conference because, conference days is 4 days and I'm humping all 4 days. I mean, I'm going pretty strong, and like a lot of people see me going from point A to point B and go, "Hey, Gary, can I ask you something?" I said, "Yeah, if you can walk with me," because I'm happy to talk to people. And the rest of the year, though, I go to Bitcoin events and I get to network a lot. And actually, if I'm truthful, I do get some notoriety and recognition from doing the conference. So when I go to Bitcoin events, it's easier for me to meet people, and build rapport quicker than being someone who's unknown. So I do have a little bit of an advantage of making friends, which I do like making friends. So that kind of makes it worth it. Now, this year could be a little different for me. I may have more time, even though that's longer. I may have more time because we have Mel, who helped us last year. She's going to be running the front end, which my wife has always had to help someone run the front end before check-in and bag inserts and all that stuff. Mel would be running that, and Surfer Jim is coming, and he's going to run the back end. So I'll be a little bit involved with him, showing him what I do. But then by next year, before it's over, maybe by Friday at noon, he'll have the back end down. So Saturday, I should pretty much be pretty comfortable. So this year, I'll probably have more time. Yeah, I saw Jim when I was out at Bitcoin, Swan Bitcoin conference, and he was volunteering to help. And he was running around, "Hey, you got a hammer?" "Sure, I have one." "Who the hell brings a hammer with to a conference?" Whatever the tool was, I can't remember. So he told me how much he enjoyed working conferences. And Jim, is a home builder. He's used to running a crew. I know if he could do that, he definitely could do the back end. I said, "Well, you want to come help out at BitBlockBoom?" He said, "I'd love to." I said, "Well, you can run the whole damn thing for all I care. I'll give you everything as far as, behind the stage, making sure the people are on time to speak, so I'm going to teach him to run the back end for me." So I should have a lot of time this year, which, I'm 68. I need to start slowing down. My wife wants me to quit doing the conference because she says I work too hard all year, and I am retired and I don't need to work. I just enjoy doing this, and I think there's a need for it. I really do. But yeah, that's the lowdown on that. I probably went around the world getting to all that. Probably included a lot of stuff you didn't even need.
No, I loved it. I think of it a little bit like my father loved to fish. My pop always said, like, he didn't want to get a boat. He always went on party boats because he didn't want to be the guy who had to like clean the boat, gas up the boat. And he always felt whoever owned the boat never got to enjoy the boat. And I feel like, you got the nicest boat. And, you don't get to enjoy it as much as we do because you're making sure the boat's running well and, it's well gas fed and all that. And maybe you'll get to enjoy it more this year.
Well, I'll tell you one thing, though, that is enjoyable. And it happened again Friday afternoon at Unchained Capital's event in Austin this weekend. Almost everything I ever go to, I have someone come up to me and go, "I got my dream job because of BitBlockBoom." And they just want to thank me, like I did something special just for them, which I'm lucky. I mean, I didn't do anything special for them. I just did something special for everybody, maybe, but I'm glad that it worked for them. Last year, the girl who helped me do social media, she contacted me, said, "Hey, I'd love to do social media, your Instagram page and whatever you need." And I was like, "Really?" She goes, "Yeah." I said, "If you just give me a pro pass, I'd be happy to do it." And then she got a job at Zibidi. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that wrong. So she sent me an email message and said, "Hey, I'm not going to be able to do it next year because of my involvement with BitBlockBoom. I got my dream job." Friday, someone came up at Unchained Capital and told me that Cam, who works at Unchained Capital, he's the only person that actually wrote me a letter and thanked me for getting his dream job. He came down from somewhere in mid-America, just north middle America, to come to BitBlockBoom and met the people at Unchained Capital. The girl who at Riot Blockchain does is the head of finance over there. She got her job at BitBlockBoom. And so it goes on and on and on. But that's really, that really gets down to more, though, how I feel about conferences. I don't go to conferences personally to go sit in a chair and watch a speaker. At BitBlockBoom, I think my speakers are great. And I think that if that's what you like to do, you're going to be very impressed. Or if there's a speaker, you go, I really want to see this person and see what they have to say, or maybe they have an announcement. I think I have cream of the crop speakers. So that's great. But I'm the kind of person who goes to a conference, and I may go to a conference and never see a speaker. I mean, most of the time at Bitcoin Day, I was out in the hallway. I watched like half of 2 or 3 speakers. I like networking in the hallways. And my wife used to give me so much of a hard time. I can't believe we paid for this flight, your hotel room, all this money for you to go to this conference, and you tell me you didn't see one session. And I go, no, and I always answer, my stock answer is, I never made any money sitting in that room watching people speak. But I've always put a lot of deals together or gotten a tip. My podcast conference that we had and I sold part of, that was at a Vegas Blog World conference. I was hanging out always, and I met some guys that knew me and wanted to put together a conference, and they just didn't have the strength to go do it on their own. They needed somebody who they felt like knew the market better than them. So they asked me if I would join them. I was like, sure. I'm not your daddy. I'm not going to babysit you. That's what I said. But I think because I like to network at conferences so much that I made a networking event, and that's what the parties are. They're networking events. They really are. I call them parties and dinners. I don't care what you call them. They're networking events. They're an opportunity to meet people. And the thing about BitBlockBoom too, and I'm sorry if I go on a lot, but you got me started on it. If you're someone in the audience or you're a speaker, they hang out there all day. It's not like, at some conferences, the speaker comes in the back, speaks, and then they leave, and then you never see him again. Most of the time, when it's time for the speaker to speak, he just gets up out of the audience and walks over there and comes behind stage. And when he's through, he goes back on the audience. He'll be at all the dinners. So when people would come up to me and go, gosh, I couldn't believe it, that second BitBlockBoom. I went to that party and I looked over there at the bar, and there was Saifedean Ammous, Pierre Richard. I don't know who else was, Jimmy Song. They were just all standing by the bar drinking beers. And I went over and got a beer, and they started talking to me, and so it's a networking event. It's not like just go sit down, shut up, and listen to what we're doing. It's like, come on, you're part of the crew. You're one of the 21 million Bitcoin partial holders, or whatever you want to say, one of the Bitcoin maxis. So, you're welcome here. We're all friends in the world of BitBlockBoom. Another question, this is off subject, people always ask me too. So I'll bring this to people. Go, where'd you get that name at BitBlockBoom? Is that because it's a Bitcoin blockchain? You're a boomer? I didn't even think of that when we came up with the name, but I hear that a lot too. So we put some names in a domain generator, Bitcoin, blockchain, blah, 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 blah. And that was one of the ones that came up with. So that's how we came up with the name BitBlockBoom.
That's crazy. I heard a lot of things there, and I loved hearing it. You seem to always have very good timing alongside some other very fantastic traits. You have a strong desire to meet people, and it seems. And for me, I think the best part of these conferences is the socializing. It's not always easy for me. Sometimes I feel a little introverted, but being at BitBlockBoom makes it a little bit easier because you kind of see people over and over. You build a rapport. People are very casual there. You'll see everyone at the bar or in the elevator, and everyone sticks around and wants to be there.
I think that's why so many people stay at the hotel, and you really want. I'll see someone say, "Should I get an Airbnb?" And everybody go, "No, you need to be at the hotel." Yeah.
It's probably the best part, and I've seen people contemplate just staying at the hotel and not going to the conference. Maybe I shouldn't say that.
No. That's a big thing. I forget what it's called. There's a name for it. The LobbyCon. Right. I'm credited for my event starting LobbyCon, where people, and I think that some of the people, like I told you, someone came and went Thursday night and Saturday or Sunday. I have a lot of people that go just to the Friday night party. So I think that those people go, okay, I'm going to go there. I'm going to go to that party because that's a great party. And then I'm going to hang out in the lobby, And I think this year we're going to open up the workshops to anyone that wants to come on Thursday. So the workshops will probably be open to anyone that wants to come. And then Saturday, Friday, I'll start, you'll have to have a ticket to come in. But, everybody hangs out all night. And then once when Tone has his poker game going on or whatever, that'll be in the lobby. We have the entire 6th floor. So it won't be like you'll have to have a ticket to go up there and hang out,
Well, it's also, to me, I mean, it's kind of like a wedding. It's family and friends. And what I mean by wedding, though, is you have the Friday rehearsal dinner, you have the main event, and then you have the Sunday brunch at some weddings. And, you might go to one, but you're not getting the whole experience if you just go to one. And you might have a great time at one. But really, I think that there's a synergistic aspect to this experience of being in the hotel the whole time, going through each day and meeting people and being around people consistently. I think it just kind of compounds the experience versus any of the one-off parts of it, which are great. But speaking specifically about the electricity of BitBlockBoom and meeting people. So before COVID, Bitstein was at BitBlockBoom. I wasn't there. This was earlier in my journey of stacking sats. And I was at this place, especially in bear markets, of might as well. I haven't met Bitcoiners in real life. I don't know the value of it yet. I don't know if I'm going to enjoy it. Might as well spend the money on sats. And I remember, though, Bitstein's performance or talk at BitBlockBoom, and it was electric. And it took over Twitter. It went viral. But I felt like this almost physical vibe. It was visceral. And I want to be at the next one. I want to.
That talk changed how we did videos at BitBlockBoom. That year, we recorded videos, and then, I pretty much do everything myself. The next Monday or Tuesday, after I had a couple days break, I started editing them one at a time and putting them up one a week. But that thing went viral from people just talking about it and streaming parts of it on their phone. So I think that Sunday I had to do it. So now, since the third one, that was at the second one. Since the third one, we've streamed them live from then on. So people can just stream them live. They can catch it immediately. They don't have to wait for me to get around to doing them. Now, I do break it down and put them out as single episodes later, and they got to wait on that. But the whole stream's on there. Anyone can go find it if they want to go find it. So we started doing that immediately, and that was because so many people, that thing went viral. It wasn't even accessible, and it was viral on the internet just because of the things he said on that, which was really good. Everyone's a Scammer, I think, was the name of the talk. And actually, if anyone wants to see that, just go to the BitBlockBoom YouTube page and look under, Bitstein. I think the category's 18.
I think it's The Art of Bitcoin Rhetoric, or How to Meme Bitcoin to the Moon.
Yes, that's it. That's
the one.
Yeah, first year, everyone was a scammer. That was his first year.
Which is another phenomenal piece. I've discussed both with him on the show. He's probably he's on my Mount Rushmore of Bitcoiners for me.
Oh, I saw him yesterday and the day before. It's the first time I've seen him in a year or so. So I think he's with, I don't know where he's working at now. Unchained. He's working at Unchained.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
And speaking of, meeting people in person, and BitBlockBoom being the longest running Bitcoin conference, what did it mean to you, and what were the challenges maybe to do it during COVID?
Well, number one, let me cover that. This is the longest running, not the oldest. It's the longest running because we did it during COVID. No one else did a conference during COVID. I think Tone did a conference, but mine was a year older than his. So I automatically grabbed, someone told me that and said, you're the longest running Bitcoin conference. So what do you mean? I said, oh my gosh, I didn't know that. I said, okay, well, I'm going to go for that. And then someone else who's taking care of the, I think what really happened then is someone who takes care of the Twitter page put that on there in the header description. Then all of a sudden, well, it was true, but I just was never pushing that to begin with. But COVID was really hard. We had the conference all set up. Everything was going real well. We had some people canceling, of course. And I let people cancel quite a while. I'm not trying to screw people. If they want to come, they don't. But there's a certain point in time where I can't let them cancel anymore. I've already got things paid, lined up. But the hardest part of that was 2 weeks before the conference. I mean, literally 14 days, maybe it's 15 days before the conference, my hotel calls up that I was using and said, "Oh, I have some bad news for you. We're closing the hotel for COVID." And so many things had been going. I had been putting out so many fires, because of COVID. Like I was putting out a different fire every week. And when I remember I was in my office at work and I just said, F, what else could go wrong? I mean, because that was like the ultimate could go wrong. But I found a hotel a block away that was still open. And of course, they had no conferences going on. No, but it was easier than I thought, So, because no hotels had conferences going on. They'd all been canceled. I'm the only one who's stupid enough to do a conference. So the first hotel I go to, walking distance away, they go, "We'd love to have you." And I was like, "Oh, wow." And so, and they were, the other hotel was a Renaissance that's owned by Marriott. And this was Quorum that's owned by Marriott. So they were able to get all the reservations switched over. People didn't have to recall. Then they called everybody or sent everybody an email saying your reservation's been switched to blah, blah, blah. And I did the social media. And we had a great conference. And that is what put BitBlockBoom on the map, I think, to be honest with you. I still say this to that day. I remember Clubhouse, as an example, was kind of just starting and getting going. And I was on Clubhouse one afternoon. And this was maybe a month before the conference. I don't know exactly the term, but let's say a month. And someone was asking me about BitBlockBoom on him. And then people that were in the Clubhouse started going, "What is this, like a virtual conference?" Because there hadn't been a conference all year. I said, "No, this is an in-person conference." And someone else would go, "Like people are coming to this conference?" And I said, "Yeah." And I would get off of we'd talk about it and they go, I think they were in shock, that there was a real life conference because I hadn't been to one all year. And that afternoon I'd look and I'd sold 20 tickets, just from that conversation. And that happened every time. And I think normally, if it had been a normal world, the normal times, people would go, it's the end of August. It's Texas. It's hotter than hell. I've been to 5 conferences already this year. There's no reason for me to go to Austin, Texas and sweat my butt off for my 6th conference of the year. But because they had not been to a conference the whole year, they just wanted to go to a conference. They just wanted to go hang out with some Bitcoiners. And once they came, they were sold, I think, and that was the deal. I just had to get them there one time. And so all these new people came that had never been to my conference ever, probably wouldn't have come in. And they loved it, and they started coming back here because you said something earlier that's true. I try to build like a family reunion atmosphere. I've said that from the beginning. I want it to be the kind of place that when someone says, "Hey, are you going to BitBlockBoom?" that someone goes, "Yeah, of course. It's my only chance to see all my peeps, definitely going." So that's what I'm trying to build here. But that COVID actually, I think, built BitBlockBoom to what it is. And then one more thing about COVID and BitBlockBoom that year, and I'll wrap it up because it was so funny. Or I think it's funny. Everybody, we even gave away, because the hotel was like, "Oh, you got to wear these masks. You got to enforce this stuff coming from the home office." So I gave away BitBlockBoom masks, mask, and it had BitBlockBoom logo on it. And as a knockoff in the gift bag, attendee bag. And then at maybe about 1:00, I'm coming out to get a glass of water or something, because I got like 20 minutes between speakers to do stuff. And the hotel manager goes, "Gary, I need to talk to you for a minute." So, "Sure, what do you need?" He says, "No, I need to talk to you over in this room." I was like, "Okay." So I go in this room and there's 2 other people in the room. Now it's me and 3 people in the room. And they go, "Gary, your people aren't wearing their masks." I said, "Well, I gave them masks. Yeah, that's the best I can do." I said, "Well, they're walking around with cups of water and cups of coffee so they can say they're drinking it and not have to wear a mask," because they were didn't want to wear a mask. Bitcoiners naturally don't want to wear masks. I can tell you that from that conference. And we're going to have to call the police or something if you can't get them to wear their mask. And I looked at them, I said, "You know what? First of all, I may be old enough to be their daddy, but I'm not. I'm not their daddy, so I don't know why you're coming to me. Second, I think you should call the cops on them. They would really love that. I would do that right now. I think that'd be a great thing to do. And they go, well, what do you mean? And I remember when I'm kind of starting, what do you mean? I said, oh my gosh, they would just love. I think any of them that do have their mask on would take them off when the police got here, so they could all go to jail together and film it and put this all over the net. All these Bitcoiners getting arrested. And they said, well, and I don't remember how to admit it. It was like, okay, well, thanks for coming in here, Gary. And then they all left. They never came in the back part where we were at our conference again. And that night, you could see them all up by the bar at the hotel. They're all partying, all the Bitcoiners. None of them have a mask on. And the three hotel people were just standing over there with the mask on with their arms crossed, like making evil eyes at them. But when they realized that might not be a good move to have the police come and then the next year I did the conference there, and she explained it to me. She said, Gary, because of the last year's event, Marriott has a new clause now in their contract. It's called the BitBlockBoom clause about your people in their masks. If they don't wear masks or don't follow the COVID rules, we can cancel the event. And I said, oh, that's pretty smart. Yeah, I can't do too much about that. And they can't film too much about an event being canceled, I guess. But that was like in August of the year before, because I always signed the contract with the hotel a year earlier. And by the time the next August came, COVID wasn't an issue anymore. But yeah, I thought it was pretty good. We had our own clause in the contracts for Marriott named after the conference. Another first probably for a Bitcoin conference.
Right. Well, it's interesting how a lot of things come full circle. I started the show in October of 2020, and you were on episode 5. I really appreciate you coming on. You agreed to come on before I had even released any material. I always think it's very brave of Bitcoiners and generous of their time to not only share their time, but to go into a situation they don't know much about. People agreed to come on the show. Pierre Richard agreed to come on the show, never heard an episode.
That show, though, I still see people sharing that post from a year ago. Or whenever,
almost 3.5 years ago.
And I think I saw it last week or 2 or 3 weeks ago. That post, you're like named your first 10 people on there, and it was bam. So I see that post a lot.
Yeah, and I definitely appreciate you coming on. And after I started the show, I had an incredible desire to actually meet Bitcoiners in person. It was during COVID. It was October of 2020. In November, you threw BitBlock Barbecue, and I flew down for a night to come down to Dallas. It was a chance to get to a different part of the country, which was, just during that time was healthy. And it was a chance to meet other Bitcoiners for the first time in person. I had yet to go to BitBlockBoom or even Bitcoin Miami. So that was an awesome event. And, it is great to meet people in person, but you've taken it a little bit further in a couple of situations. Bitcoin Day Naples, you shared a house with Bitcoiners. And I have the book over here. Give me 1 second. And you wrote Bitcoin and the American Dream. I should have noted this in the intro. And you even signed this one along with your co-authors. And you shared a house or 2 houses with them, I guess.
We had a duplex. We had both sides of the duplex, and the backyard was common. We all went to Jimmy Song, Amanda Cavalier, C.J. Wilson, Lamar Wilson, Charlene Fedorov, Pete Rossi. We all went, spent 6 days in a house, 8 of us, and wrote that book. And that was actually, I really enjoyed it because I made some good friends now. I mean, when you live with someone for 8 days and you're up from 9 o'clock till 2 a.m. working together all day, you really become good friends. And they're all really good friends of mine. So I really do enjoy that part of it. But Jimmy does this once a year. I don't know how he does it once a year. I don't want to do it again, but I did enjoy it. But, the funny part is I always guess I try to find the funny stuff out of the house. We all walked into the house, the duplexes, and I started walking the right side. Lamar and I were last to get there. And I walk in and someone comes to the door and says, this side's full, Gary. You have to go to the other side. And I'm going, okay. So I'm going, that's kind of a bummer. I'm not going to be with all the cool kids. Everybody's over there. It's just me and someone else coming I don't know because I didn't know Lamar yet. So I went in and looked around and go, there's no one in here at all. So I took the master bedroom. Then Lamar comes in. He takes the other bedroom. So in our half, we had 2 people. It was great. On the other half, there was like 6 of them all crammed in there. So it worked out fantastic. But yeah, you make good friends when you, and that was a really good experience. Actually, I like doing a lot of things. Right now we have a satscardshop.com going. We get buy Sats cards wholesale from CoinKite, and we sell them shipped out of the US, because when you buy them from CoinKite, you got to have them shipped from Canada. It takes about 2 weeks for them to get to you, and they charge pretty high freight, where I don't charge any shipping and they sell within 24 hours. And we have our own BitBlockBoom Sat card. I bought 1,000 of those. So a lot of people collect Sat cards. If they do and they want the BitBlockBoom one, well, that's the only place you can get them at is through me. So we have satscardshop.com going now. We did the book. We have, I'm a Azteco reseller. So I have Azteco accounts under me that sell Azteco vouchers for people who know that. Matter of fact, as Beauty On with Azteco sent us 500,000 Sat vouchers to give away at BitBlockBoom. At the rate Bitcoin's going, those were pretty good money by then. And the next thing, I'm partnering with someone. I'll just give a hint out. I'm not going to say what it is exactly, but I'll give you enough of a hint that by hopefully January or February of next year, myself and someone else will be doing a college tour with Bitcoin speakers, going into maybe a different college every month, kind of the setup like Bitcoin Day did, but not quite. This will be brought in by the college, and they'll be paying to bring us in for a certain amount of their students to come. So maybe 50 people would be students, and then we could get 50 outside people to come. So we plan on trying to do maybe 7 or 8 of those next year. So that's the next thing we have working. So I like finding things to do, I guess. Kazunai.
Thank you.
Hi. So that's the thing. I wish I could tell you more now, but I can't. But that'll give you a little tip there that something's coming up. Good. By BitBlockBoom, we should have, the starting schedule out for people and make the announcement. We'll probably make it a BitBlockBoom now that I'm thinking about it. The actual announcement.
Well, that'll be exciting. I've had a lot of your co-authors on the show. I did have CJ Wilson on the show to discuss the book. I feel like when we last spoke, that was like an epoch ago. And this book almost feels like half an epoch ago. It even feels like the political climate's very different.
It does, doesn't it? And drastically changing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that book was written for politicians. CJ and Amanda and Jimmy wanted something they could leave besides a piece of paper and a business card. So it was basically written with them in mind. And, we did the book release in D.C. with Senator Lummis, and went over to the Capitol with her, and that was pretty cool. We got to tour the Capitol with Senator Lummis during COVID. Nobody in the whole Capitol except for us. That was once in a lifetime tour, so yeah, but I think the climate is changing right now. I think Bitcoin's getting blamed for a lot of things that's not Bitcoin's fault. Oh my gosh, the Silicon Valley Bank closing had nothing to do with Bitcoin. Oh my gosh. But I saw who's the lady senator out of up north that's always against Bitcoin. I can't think of her name.
Elizabeth Warren?
Yes. I saw her post the other day. We need to make something, maybe not exactly, but it basically was like Bitcoin needs to be illegal to stop all these banks from going out of business. What did it have to do with either of the banks? And I know Credit Suisse isn't doing a lot of Bitcoin banking business, and they're in bigger trouble as anyone else. So I don't know why Bitcoin's taking the heat for that. On that subject, I don't know why, if I had a lot of money in crypto, I don't know what is the hot cryptos now, Dogecoin or Solano or whatever it is. If I had a lot of money in that, with the way the climate is right now, I think I'd be moving it all to Bitcoin, just because they can't go in and shut Bitcoin down. They can't say give us all the computers that you have running this, or, give us everything you have. I mean, it's got to be the safest as far as being shut down. I think everybody has to agree. And even Jerome Powell with the SEC says it's the only one that's not an illegal security. So I just wouldn't think it'd take rocket science to go, if I've made some money, and then you could say, okay, I'm going to move this to like do USDC or some type, but they're getting hammered. So to me, it seems like the safest thing of everything to put your money in is Bitcoin. And I wonder if any of that's happening. And all of a sudden, as these banks are closing and this climate's changing, that people are saying all these bad things about crypto, how much of that, I don't know that it's any, but you got to wonder, is any of that due to people going, I need to put my money in something else besides, I know if you have money in the dollar or in the stock market, maybe you're thinking about that. But how about if you got money in shitcoins? Are you thinking maybe I need to get out of those? The climate's not looking too good. Where am I going to put it? Well, I don't want to really put it in the dollar, and I don't want to put it in Tether or something. So I think I'll throw it in Bitcoin. So yeah, I saw today they've made 500, if I remember correctly, 500,000 ordinals have been uploaded right now. That's a lot of ordinals in a short amount of time. How does that affect NFTs in Ethereum? If I had an NFT and I paid $1 million for it, for a JPEG, I think I'd be kind of worried right now. I mean, because you see some of those go for big money. I would be kind of worried right now with the market as it is, the conditions as they are. Ethereum is one of the ones that wasn't Bitcoin, so it's one of the ones basically that's an illegal security. If you can't use Ethereum, how do you sell or get rid of that or NFT? I don't know, because I don't know anything about NFTs except I'd much rather have a Picasso for $1 million hanging on my wall, greatest artist of all times to me, than an NFT of a monkey,
Right.
which is a JPEG, So I don't understand a lot of things, though. Maybe that's because I'm an old boomer.
Or maybe we're just not interested. We could focus on other things. I can't help but think when this book was written, Bitcoin and the American Dream. I mean, I'm looking at the back. You guys look incredibly happy and
it was
hopeful.
over. We were all happy.
It was over. I think but I don't know if you wrote it right now, if you would feel as hopeful about just I think things have changed drastically in these 2 years. Bitcoin was probably at 30,000 2 years ago or a year ago when this book was written, and now it's at 30,000. But there wasn't a banking crisis then. There wasn't war on the horizon.
Banking crisis is what Bitcoin was made for. That's why
Sure.
I was kind of confused that Bitcoin was going down at first.
Right.
When the banking crisis started happening, and people were selling, go, what's the deal? This is kind of what it was made for. It should be going up. Everybody should be going, oh my gosh, it is happening. And this is what everybody's been saying for 5 years.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't think the banking crisis is anywhere near to be over with. And I hate to see the banking crisis, really, because I don't think that's good for people in general. I think too many people, some people are going, oh my gosh, if we have this thing, I'm going to get rich off my Bitcoin. And I think you're going to get rich off your Bitcoin anyway. I think we just need to have it happen slowly, not like overnight. I think if it happens overnight, the amount of people who are going to be hurt and destroyed, and people that I know, will have to move. My neighbors, for instance, might have to move. They have no business anymore. They can't afford their house. I mean, I don't want to see that happen to anybody. So,
yeah.
But I don't know. I think us 8 were pretty positive about Bitcoin. I think we would still be positive about Bitcoin. And I saw Jimmy.
Well, I mean more the
CJ.
reception to it.
Huh?
I feel more the reception to it. I feel like there was maybe more hope that political actors would be more recipient to then. I don't know if there'd be the same hope about writing a book for Congress today. In terms of, I mean, this book will always exist, and maybe they'll find it today. I hope they do.
You might be right.
I just feel like it's a more tense atmosphere, more clenched.
Well, it's a great book for anyone to market it real quick. If you want to learn about Bitcoin and you want a book that you could read on a flight, I mean, you could read this book on a flight. It's not that thick, and it's going to give you 13 chapters, I think it is, of great content. So I think it's actually. After everybody wrote that book, everybody wrote a chapter. And then, for instance, I wrote chapter, What is Money? And then I edited every other chapter. And once somebody edited your chapter, you couldn't go back to it. So your chapter might not look anything like what you started with, but I'd go into a chapter and I'd see something, say, well, they need to add this. Like in one about helping communities, I wrote about Riot blockchain out where it said how all these jobs have sprung up from a dead town, and people were adding things or taking away things. And then at the end, we spent the entire night, about the entire night. I think I finally crashed at like 4:00 on the couch and they were still working with it on a big screen. And we went through the whole book, one paragraph at a time, with all 8 of us there. And everybody had to agree on the paragraph before we get to the next paragraph. It wasn't a chapter at a time, paragraph at a time, until we went to the next paragraph. And we went through the entire book that way. So it was a group project for sure. It wasn't like, I think a lot of people say, oh, there's 8 people, they wrote one chapter each and they left. No, they wrote one chapter each. You edited all the other chapters. I mean, there's a lot of work to it.
Yeah, I'm sure. And it's a great book. I mean, just from the chapters alone, and I've read the whole book and I've had CJ on to talk about it, but I think it highlights some things that I think a lot of people want to hear more about. So Bitcoin and American values, I think is important. The rise of the Bitcoin voter, promise of Bitcoin saving. This one I love. Bitcoin is a tool for social justice. Bitcoin for Main Street, which I think you were talking about with Riot. And or also maybe Bitcoin creates jobs and revitalizes industry, Bitcoin and national security, and aligning America with Bitcoin. I think all these are very important topics that weren't or not as examined as much elsewhere. So I think it's a great book to bring to the table. I was just kind of trying to note that times feel very different in a short period of time, but I want to maybe zoom out a bit. I mean, how would you compare the atmosphere now to like the Vietnam War or the Cold War?
Well, during the Vietnam War, I was in high school. My brother was in the Vietnam War, and a lot of my friends went to the Vietnam War. They stopped the draft the year I got out of high school. And it wasn't like it is now, like with people joining the service. Nobody wanted to go join the service. They were coming home being spit on, calling baby killers. I mean, a lot of things were happening too. So a lot of protests were at the time is the thing I'm getting at. Though the Vietnam War stopped, I think, because there were so many people objecting to it and rebelling and rioting and marching. And there were giant marches everywhere, marches with veterans, with mothers of people who passed away. Just people were rioting, not rioting, protesting. Now they do more rioting, protesting. They were large protests. And finally, the Vietnam War ended. I don't see protests like there used to be. I think protests are a good thing. I think peaceful protests are a good thing. I see more riots now. Maybe things start as a protest, but they turn into riots. I don't think that happened as much. You had Kent State, I think I was a junior in high school. I think 8 people, I knew a guy went to Kent State. That's why 8 people got killed by the National Guard at Kent State for protesting. They weren't rioting, they were protesting. Now they protest and burn down things and nothing happens to them then, just for objecting to what the government was doing. So I think people were more concerned with peaceful change for the better there. I don't know what people are trying to accomplish now. I don't believe they're trying to accomplish things for the better, the ones that do. And I think the rest of them are just cattle, that we've gotten too much faith in the government that they're going to take care of us for some reason. I don't know where all that came from, because it certainly wasn't there when I was young. I mean, when you saw your friends, were coming home dead, and they didn't want to go to begin with, so my dad was funny. So my dad, he's passed away now, but in World War II, him and his father got a letter in the mail, and it said, your friends and neighbors it was basically, congratulations, your friends and neighbors have chosen you for to become join the army. and he didn't want to be in the army. And he goes, I don't know who these people were, but they weren't any friends and neighbors of mine. Mm-hmm. So him and his dad both went down there, and his dad was too old. I mean, to be in the war. I guess they didn't have as good records back then. But he joined the war and went to, and he did it what he's supposed to do. He joined the army and went and fought the Nazis. But I don't know. Now it seems like there in Vietnam, we were really not listening to everything the government said anymore, or taking it for granted that it was truth. You had to mistrust in the government, and you had to be proved it was true instead of saying, okay, it's true now. And I think COVID's a great example of that. Now, whatever the government says, oh, there's a ton of people, way more people than ever, that says, oh yeah, the government said it, so it's the truth. And I just don't know where that came from. I mean, I'm one of those people, I watch TV or I watch the news or something. I stop and go, did you see that? To my wife, she'll go, what? And I have to rewind it to show her what the person said. I said, where'd that come from? This whole article had nothing to do with that comment she made. It's just out of the blue. She threw this comment in there, Bitcoin sucks. The whole article was about nothing else. That's just, I'm making that part up, Bitcoin sucks. But that would be an example. So I think that the atmosphere has changed a lot, no matter what you say. I don't know if that answers your question. I might have went off on a rant, which I do a lot, but
are you optimistic about the way things are going?
Well, I think everything's cyclical. I think most people believe that. So yeah, I think that people, and this could be what leads to it, is the banking crisis that I don't think is under containment like they're telling us, or the inflation rate, which I don't think is under containment like they have us, or the fact they're raising the interest so fast that all these banks are going out of business, and inflation's off the hook and they're doing nothing to cure it. So maybe all of these things are what's going to change the cycle. So we start asking questions again instead of being sheep and just blindly doing what we're told. I think that's what made this country great, is we did things and we asked questions, and we're not a communist country where you just do what you're told because you know you're going to go to jail or be killed or your family's going to be in prison. I think that's what makes America great, to be honest with you. And I think maybe this could be the start of that. Like I said, I'm almost 70. So what, I got like 15 years left before I got a drool cup and I'm in a wheelchair or something probably. So I don't know how it'll be, it'll affect me at all, but it'll affect my kids and grandkids, for sure. So then again, though, I'm trying to establish wealth, if not generational wealth, that no matter what happens, I know my kids and grandkids will be taken care of, because hopefully I'm right and you're right, and a bunch of us who feel this way are right, and we've got something that not only are there only 21 million of that'll ever be made, but everybody wants one, but nobody can have one anymore unless you were one of the people that got in early, and then you got the question that I've heard a couple of people, is that fair? Is that fair for some people to have 1,000 Bitcoins? Is that fair for Michael Saylor to have that many Bitcoin? He has 17,000 Bitcoin personally, and then thousands, whatever number, for his company. Is that fair? And I had this conversation with someone the other day. I said, it's more than fair. He's the one that took the risk when it was nothing. Anyone can take the risk. Maybe I can't buy 17,000, but you can take the risk and buy whatever, but you don't want to. Whether you can take the risk and buy $100 worth or $1,000 worth or $50 million worth. So that's kind of the way the United States is. If you're willing to take the risk and the chance and spend your time, effort, and money, you should be rewarded. But I don't know where this fair stuff gets me. I'm not into this fair. I don't think the world's a fair place. I don't think anything's fair. I think the people who are treated fairly are the people who make sure that they're in a situation to take care of themselves. And that goes back, I think, to what I was saying earlier. They all trust the government, think the government's going to tell them what to do and take care of them. They're not. They're not your buddy. I mean, there are people there. Why would you go? Why would anyone in the government, and I'm going to choose Nancy Pelosi as an example. I don't know her. Might be the greatest person in the world, but she's 80-something years old. I mean, like 85 or something. I'm 84. I don't know what she is. She's in her 80s. I'm almost in my 70s. And I can tell you, if I had $200 million and I was 15 years older than I am today, there's no way I would be working halfway across the country. Because what does she need to work for? So if you put it in those terms, got to be something going on there. I mean, that's not good for me, is how I look at it.
Yeah, she's not working for us. I get what you're saying there.
Yeah.
It's crazy to think that anybody on either side of the aisle is getting up and working harder for you than you're working harder for yourself.
Yeah, and that's that fairness
at any
thing.
age. It's crazy.
Yeah, you got to take care of yourself. You can't have people taking care of you. You got to take care of yourself. And I think that goes back to this thing that started in high schools and elementary schools, that everybody's on the honor roll. Everybody's on the honor roll at my daughter's elementary school. Everybody was in the honor roll. Everybody that was at my daughter's swim meet, first through ninth place, got a ribbon. Everybody was a winner. I kind of think, sometimes these kids go through school and they never lose at anything. And I'm serious here. You go through school, you're a winner, even if you come in 10th place. You're on the honor roll all the time. They get out of school, and they go to work in the real world and find out they're a loser. They're not the winner every time. Maybe they're average. Maybe they're below average. Whatever it is. But I think they can't handle it. And I think it's good for people to lose. I think it's good to come in last place and not get a trophy and go, oh, I didn't get a trophy. Those little losses, which really mean nothing in the whole timeline of things, get you more prepared when something goes wrong in the real world when you get out there, because you're not going to be a winner. Everybody can't be a winner in the real world. It just isn't going to happen. So I think those little losses you can have growing up are very important. And I think we are doing our kids damage by not letting them take those. It's like not letting them fall down, wipe off their knees and get back up and get on that bike again. Going, oh, no, you fell down. Sit over here. You don't need to ride that bike anymore. And they never learn how to ride the bike because they fell off one time and you don't want to ride that bike. You're going to get hurt every time. I think that's basically the same thing. To me, you got to fail. Failures make you stronger and you become a winner.
Yeah, I try to teach my kids that failure is on the road to success and you got to get comfortable with failure. I think also the other side to that same coin is if you are doing well in school and prescribed and all these tests, and I think some of those people grow up and they're like, well, I'm doing everything I was told to do. I'm still taking, the job I was told to take, and how come it's not getting better for me? I'm following all the rules that I did when I was younger, and that paid off. And it doesn't always pay off like that, I think, after school. But, speaking of sort of success, so I saw you at Bitcoin Day Naples. We saw each other personally, but I also saw you speak. And you were on a panel. You moderated a panel. It was, and the gentlemen you were with were three very successful people. And all this is outside of Bitcoin. I'm speaking here. Yeah, you had Greg Foss, bond trader, Lawrence Lepard, Goldbug macro trader, Bob Burnett, former CTO of Gateway Computers. Greg and Larry have been on the show. Bob's coming on the show soon. But, Gary, I mean, honestly, I'll say it for you. I mean, and all this is outside of Bitcoin. For all four of you, you might be more successful than those three guys. And maybe I'm just saying and speaking. I don't know any of the four of you, and I don't want to speak out of turn. I'm just saying more, just in terms of your peers, and you built everything from scratch. And you did so many different things. And that's what I really want to focus on. I mean,
that's really kind of you to say, but believe me, those are some pretty impressive guys.
But what I'm getting at is, sure. But and I don't want to take anything away from them because they built some things from scratch too.
They're amazing.
Amazing guys. But I'm really trying
much
to
smarter
get at,
than me. Believe me, I was the dumbest guy. I might have been the dumbest guy in the room. I definitely was the dumbest guy on the stage.
Well, whatever it is, I mean, we could talk about timing. We could talk about persistence. I don't know what it is, but you're almost like we could say, just in terms of how much success you've had on different things, like the Forrest Gump of success then, podcasting, retail.
I've always thought, I've always said I believe everybody has a superpower. I really do. Just most people don't know what their superpower is, or else they have a job where their superpower doesn't come into play to be able to use it. My superpower, I've always said, is I see things like the average Joe. That I'm an average Joe. I have techs working for me on websites, and I look at it and go, that website's terrible. And I go, what are you talking about? And I'm going, because no one's going to be able to buy anything on that website. And so, I did. I got started in e-commerce in 96. Everybody said I was stupid, that no one would buy stuff on the internet. And I said, well, I'd buy a lot of stuff on the internet. So I did. I started podcasting in 2004. I was probably one of the first 100 podcasters on the planet. And everybody said, that's stupid. They got a radio in their car. And I feel like I was late getting into Bitcoin. I don't know why. First time I was told about it, it was like $100 probably. And someone said it was like online stocks. And I said, I'm terrible at that. And every time I see that guy, I go, what in the hell was the online stock deal? He said, well, you were an old guy. I thought maybe you'd understand that. And I said, well, thanks. You cost me millions of dollars. But I have done a lot of things. And I think I think once I get successful in something, I kind of get bored with it. Once I get it to a certain point, and then I move on. Like I sold the podcasting conference. I sold several of my businesses. COVID killed my sporting good business. I mean, it just destroyed it. No one was playing high school ball, recreational ball, college ball, pro ball. There was none going on. So that business died, and I gave that entire store to the women's shelter of Arlington. They came by with like a bigger than a U-Haul, for sure, like a semi truck, loaded an entire store in there, and took it to the women's shelter to give, kids want bats and balls and gloves and turf shoes or tennis shoes, basically. Coats are coats. I mean, t-shirts are t-shirts. So I'm sure they had a lot of use for that. And, I had no use for it anymore. And I couldn't sell it because no one was doing anything. That business was dead, at the time. So I felt good. I didn't need it anymore. It had been very successful to me. But yeah, I have done a lot of things, and I've been successful, but I've had a lot of failures too, so it's not like I've succeeded at everything I've ever done. It's just the ones you succeed at, people see, no one goes around bragging about the ones they failed at, and no one sees the failures. So I've had as many failures as I've had successes.
I can appreciate that. But I've also seen you're very, to me, some words I'd say brave, fearless, some might say based. I mean, you kind of, you seem authentic. But I even remember a funny anecdote. I was at my niece's engagement party. I was online for the prime rib, and the guy was giving out really chintzy cuts. And my wife was in front of me. My brother was behind me. My wife doesn't like when I ask for a little more or the cut I want. And so then my brother came, and he was just like, I want that whole thing. He's like, I'm throwing the party. That's what I want, and so then I was sitting next to my brother at the table, and the whole time I had to see him with his nice choice cut and my terrible cut. And it was kind of a very disappointing event. And then I was at BitBlockBoom at one of the dinners, and they were, kind of doing your 2 tacos or whatever per, and you kind of jumped in line, and you were like, hey, I just want like a whole plate full. I'm throwing the event. This is my event. I just want a whole plate full. And I think, there's something there with, but some other stories you've told me, I think you're just very authentic and brave and being who you are. And I think,
well, I hope I didn't cut in front of you.
And, I won't no comment. And but it was your event, Gary. And but I think that there's something there though, just about going for it and trying things or whatever you want to call it, and being having integrity about it, and living your life to the fullest, or being in the moment. I'm not sure.
Well, I like to do new things. I like to have new experiences. I have to say, out of all the things I've been involved with, and I've been involved with a lot of things, Bitcoin is like the most exciting thing I've ever been involved with. I mean, it is so different. It's been so educational, and I've learned, oh my gosh, I think sometimes I feel like I almost have a finance degree from all the information I've watched. I mean, there were things I didn't have any idea about. I never knew what money was. I think everybody thinks they do. Everybody has some in their pocket, and everybody makes some, and everybody saves some and spends some. But I would venture to say that way over half the people in the country have no idea what money is. I mean, and until you know what money is, I feel like that you're missing out on a lot of information and a lot of that you can't take advantage of because of that. So, but yeah, I appreciate the kind words, and I do like doing new things. But I think that kind of is why, okay, I got BitBlockBoom going, but I also have tons of video channels going, and now I've got the Sats card shop going, and I helped write a book, and then I do all these things. I have a TV show, the Bitcoin Boomer Show. It's on independent TV channels. I do that with Biz TV Network. I go in their studio once a week and record. So I do a lot of things. I like being busy, and I like when I move into a world, that's what I call it. Like when I was in podcasting, that was a world I was in. My first retail was decorating stores, so I was involved in that. I always do a lot of things around them, because I think if I just stick with the one part, I kind of get bored with it. And I like the whole world, but I just can't stay with that little part. I got to expand into the universe of the world, of the area. But those are very kind words. And I enjoy Bitcoin. I think there's so much to it, because when you just take the world of Bitcoin and then you surround it with the world of money and finance, that's a lot of information to learn. And there's a lot to that. And that all, it's not that I buy and sell Bitcoin. I just buy it, and hold it. I mean, I've really never sold any. Yeah, maybe I had to pay for something in Bitcoin, so I bought some and sent it out, because I don't want to touch my stash. I feel like touching my pile of Bitcoin is like taking a chance of being a crack addict. You do some crack, you never do. I've never done any crack, by the way, but you're sitting around and all of a sudden someone talks you into doing some crack and you do it. And once you cross that line the first time, maybe the next time he says, hey, you want to do some crack again? You go, oh, okay. And then next thing you know, you're a crack addict. So if I touch my stack the first time, the next time something happens, I go, oh, yeah, okay, well, maybe I'll sell some more. And next thing you know, I've sold a lot, and then my stack's gone. So I don't touch my stack. I don't ever touch my stack. And some people, I think, I've talked to plenty of people who thought they were smart, sold some of their stack to make the monies, buy it back later, but then all they did was buy it back later and they had less of it than they had before. Because it didn't go like they thought it was going to go. So,
yeah, I mean, we all know the pizza day story and lots of
did
similar.
Did you know that guy who bought that pizza? He bought several pizzas. That wasn't the only time he did it. Pete Rizzo told me that. I didn't know that. I just thought he bought a pizza one time, but he did it several times. That guy must have had a lot of Bitcoin.
Yeah. I mean, but it wasn't worth as much then, and there was no guarantee it would be worth more in the future. And I think he did a tremendous service for the time chain. One second, I lost my thought here.
That's okay. Take your time.
So he told me something else very interesting that I found fascinating. He said, if you could, but one day you would, like, move to Venice.
Yes, I would love to live in Venice. I'd love to live there for about 6 months to a year. I love Venice. I would like to live like in Venice on the canal. Like last time I went to Venice, I stayed there 3 days on a part of European tour, and we were on the first floor. Our porch was on the canal, and I could go out there and have a drink. And there's only like 20 guys that come by. After a while, you get so you recognize them. And I had given them all names, I don't know what their names were. They come by and they give you high fives and stuff. I'd love to live in Venice, like at that location, or a location somewhere like that. And then every day go to work at like a tourist shop where they were American tourists coming off the boat. So they go, oh, we'd love to have you work here. You speak English. You can help us, And I just think that'd be fun to do for some reason. Then hang out in St. Mark's Square and have a cappuccino. And I'd like to do that for like 6 months. I think that'd be great to do. I think I like Europe a lot. It'd either be there, or I really enjoyed Paris this time, but Paris is way too much hustle and bustle compared to Venice. Venice is like, you just walk around, it's pretty slow life. I'd like to do that. So
is this something you're set on doing, or something that you?
Well, I won't do that unless if my wife passed away, I would do it.
Oh, you wouldn't go together?
No, she would have no desire to do that. She doesn't ever want to leave Texas. So we've been married 40 years, so we had our anniversary 6 days ago. So yeah, I'm not going anywhere without her. So I probably won't ever go to Venice. And I don't think either one of us are dying for another 10, 20 years. So probably by the time I could go to Venice, I'll be so old that I couldn't work in the shop anymore. But I could go hang out and give high fives to the guys going by on the gondolas.
What is it about Texas?
It's
for both of you, though, I mean.
Yeah, well, I moved out here when I was 24, 25. I moved out here for 6 months. And, I'm still in the same city I moved to. She's from Texas. And our kids are in Texas, and her family's in Texas. And, Texas is a great place to live. I mean, you don't have a lot of people telling you what to do. Like in some cities, you want to start a business here, you just start a business. You don't have to get a lot of licenses. Maybe you got to get if you have a building, you got to get an occupancy permit. And I think you have to have, at least ways this was when I started my account, to get a business account, you have to have something called there's a form you get. It takes you 5 minutes to go get it. Saying that you are the business, you know what I mean? If you're a small business, so you can take that to the bank and they know that you're a legit business, I guess. And you can open up a bank account, but I could open up a business here next week, I could go rent a place, I could go rent a place, get my sign up, get in there, start selling something, and have a bank account and have it all done within 2 weeks, and I hear horror stories on some people, all the stuff they have to do, to have a business. There'd be only certain locations I could get in that quick. And I have that place that has water and is already built out, and let me put a banner up as a sign, but I could do it, so, it's a very friendly state for working. It's a friendly state to boot. And it's a conservative state, and I'm kind of a conservative person. I don't care what anyone does. Just don't make me do it. I don't care what anyone does. I don't care what your thoughts are. Just don't try to make me do it. Just let me do what I want to do, and you can do what you want to do. And I think that's the way most people around here feel.
Did South Carolina, when you were growing up, and I don't know about now, what your take on is, does it have similar qualities?
It did when I was growing up, I think. I don't know now. It's been so long since I've done anything there. But I left, I was still a kid, so I don't know. I started my first business, was like when I was like 10 or 11, I'd go out to the golf course and freeze bought cans of Coke. I don't know why. I guess we couldn't afford a thermos. I don't know what the deal is, but I buy a case of Cokes at like 6 cents a can. I throw them in the freezer overnight, and then I'd throw those. I'd just put them back in the box, and they were frozen. And I'd go out to the golf course and I'd sell them for, I think, $0.25 each. And that was like the first business I ever had. And then I added like little Lance crackers. I would go buy those. They didn't make me as much profit though as the Cokes. The Cokes you can make, because the clubhouse was so far away from like the 16th hole that they were just dying for something to drink by the time they got there. And they didn't have people in carts back then toting food around. So that was my first business. I finally got kicked off of there. I think I did it almost a year though before I got kicked off the golf course. They told me not to do it. Then they'd hit golf balls in the lakes, and I'd go out there barefooted and find them with my feet, and I'd be selling the golf balls, So, but I've always pretty much done my own business.
Sure.
I've enjoyed it anyways.
Something about Texas, though, as a lot of expressions, there's don't mess with Texas. Everything's bigger in Texas. And I think my favorite is American by birth, Texan by the grace of God.
Actually, when I had lived here more than half of my life, so I guess when I turned 51 or something, my kids threw me a Texan party. According to my kids, you have to live here half your life to be a Texan. So you can say you're from Texas, but you're not a Texan until you've been here over half your life, according to my kids. I don't know where they got that from. Might have made it up for all I damn know.
That's great when kids pull rank, and yet it was your choice to have them born there and raised there. So they should be thanking you. I just moved to Florida. I don't think there's any better state to be a Bitcoiner or just, and I love how close it is to America. It's got great proximity.
I like your governor too.
Yeah, he's done some good things. I try not to get too much into the bigger politics and hung up on the characters and left and right. And I think they're all crooked to me.
I think I agree. I think it doesn't matter who you have. I think and don't get me wrong. I'm not taking that for Trump, but when Trump said he's going to clean the swamp, that meant he was going after both sides.
Right.
And I knew this guy is in trouble. And this was like way before he got in there and started being crazy. This guy's in trouble here because he's going to have both sides after his ass if he's cleaning the swamp, because they're both the same when you really get down to it. Maybe there's some little differences, but when you get down to it, there's no.
I think they play for the same owner at least.
Yeah.
But you asked a great question on that panel with Lawrence Lepard, Greg Foss, and Bob Burnett. So I wanted to ask you, what does the world look like if Bitcoin doesn't win?
Oh yeah. I thought that was a good question. I think that if Bitcoin doesn't win, that we're going to have a lot less freedom in the future coming up because of technology, the way technology is going. Now more than ever, I think Americans have to be concerned about their freedom. And if they come up with a currency for your country, like USDC or whatever we want to call it, then you're really going to be in trouble without Bitcoin, because then you could say anything and have your money cut off. There's so much controls. I think there'll be a point in time. I think there almost has to be a point in time because of technology that people are going to be given money, like we've already experienced. When things come up that take away thousands of jobs, they go, oh, new jobs will be created. No, they aren't being created as fast as you're being taken away. The guy building the robots, there aren't as many people building the robots as there are losing their jobs to the robots. So they're going to have to find a way to give people a way to live. And there's a lot of people who just can't take care of themselves. So they're going to give them money. What we saw, that's going to continue. And without Bitcoin, then everybody's going to fall into that system somehow or another and fall into that trap of having to be dependent on other people's money. And you're going to have to do what other people say. So I guess in short, my answer to the question is, if Bitcoin doesn't win, we have to be really concerned about our freedom. I think Bitcoin is one thing, maybe the thing, that can help keep everybody free. I know it sounds kind of corny, but I really think that, or if nothing else, you're able to go, you know what, I don't like where this is headed, where I live, no matter where you live. I was talking just then about the United States, but let's go global. No matter where you live, if you have Bitcoin and it succeeds, you can leave and go pick some more. I talked to someone who told me an interesting story today, and all of us say this all the time, but I've never known anyone who has had anything to do with this. We always say things like, if you don't like what's happening, you can't leave the country with a wheelbarrow of gold. You just aren't going to get out of the country. They're going to stop you from getting on a plane, or someone's going to take away your wheelbarrow you're toting your gold in. But you can leave anywhere and go with memorizing 12 words. Well, this weekend I was talking to a guy, and he was telling me the story of his best friend, or one of his good friends, lived in Russia and didn't want to go to Ukraine to fight in the war, and he wanted to get out of Russia. So he talked to him, and this guy's a huge max. He has been for way longer than me. He talked him into telling him how to get Bitcoin and stuff. So he put everything he could into Bitcoin. And Bitcoin was at like 16. So his whole wealth was in Bitcoin, basically. But then he was worried about getting out of the country. This is kind of a cool part of the story, because they knew people were fleeing the country. So he said, put on like a black turtleneck and a black suit, and just go to the airport and tell them you want to go to the southern Turkey, to the beaches on southern Turkey where all the gangsters, Russian gangsters, hang out. He goes, they won't say anything to you. And he said, why? And I said, why wouldn't they say anything? Because they're going to be scared he's a gangster, and they don't want to take a chance on pissing him off. And so he did it. He went to the airport, got on a plane, just no one said a word to him, flew there, and then he left and went somewhere else in Europe. And now his Bitcoin's worth $28,000. So that's the first person I talked to that actually knew anyone that story had worked for. Not the getting out of Russia part as a gangster, but memorizing your 12 words. We always say it, but I didn't know anybody, that had anybody. I just knew it's possible. So that was a pretty cool story. So if Bitcoin doesn't happen, it's going to take away that opportunity to go where you feel welcome, to go where you were with like-minded people, to go where you want to go. And so you might not need to wear gangster clothes, but you can go to a gangster beach. But I think that's what happens if Bitcoin doesn't win.
Yeah. Speaking of gangsters, I loved your gangster story. We'll save that for another time. I liked Greg Foss's reply to the question, though. He said, he was a Bitcoin trader, and he said for him, he felt Bitcoin had already won because of all the great people he's gotten to meet.
And that was the only person who was positive about. See, everybody else is negative, like I was. Now I'm remembering that. Yeah, he was the one person who had a positive comment on that. Everybody else was looking at the doom and gloom scenario and what happened. Yeah,
and I thought that was tremendously positive, and I don't think optimistic is the right word, but and I don't think hopeful is. It's just about now and what it's already done for people like us, and provided us friendship and the learning we've gotten out of it, and I think that is priceless.
I wouldn't know you if it wasn't for Bitcoin or Greg or any. Yeah, actually, almost all my really good friends now are Bitcoiners. I'm in that world so often. Yeah, it would be a whole different place. So he's got a great point.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned earlier about how BitBlockBoom's like a family reunion, and I was actually at BitBlockBoom with a friend, a Bitcoiner, and he was saying how when he comes to BitBlockBoom every year, it's like, wow, like that guy got married, this girl got engaged, they have babies now, and I've noticed it myself where I've seen the changes in the individuals and the families, how they've grown and over the years. I've only gone there a couple of times, but things have changed, and just a couple of times at Bitcoin Miami, and you see the phases in people's lives and the developments. It's very interesting.
Yeah, I have people they contact me and go, hey, since I was there last year, I mean, I've got a ticket, but my wife and I are coming. Can we bring our son? He's only like a year. Do I have to buy him a ticket? No, you don't have to buy him a ticket.
Yeah. How important do you think it is to know how to talk?
Pretty important, I guess. I mean, most everybody does it. I mean, we all seem to find some importance in that. I don't know that. I'm not sure I understand the question then. You're not just asking. I mean, it's better than being mute. I mean,
Yeah. No, I mean more like to gab, to really get to know people, to kind of listen to.
Well, it's got its pros and cons. It really does. Like me, I can talk all day, and I do. And there are people who can listen all day, and they probably learn twice as much as I do. I just talk sometimes just to my wife says you talk just to hear yourself speak. So maybe if I could learn to talk less, I would be a much smarter person today, because I'm not going to learn anything from myself. I already know everything I know. So probably talking is a good thing to be able to do. I wish sometimes I was could control it more moderation, but when someone has me on their show, they don't have to worry about because I hate having someone on my show and I ask them a question and they go, yeah, I enjoy doing that. And that's the answer. I always tell people before I interview them, I'm going, hey, I'd rather ask you 10 questions on this show instead of 30. Because I don't want to come up with that many questions. So please feel free to talk.
Right.
With me, you don't have to worry about that.
Yeah, I just think that there's, a skill in being able to engage and to find out what people are looking for and to converse. I think you kind of have that. You mentioned on the last show that you think you could go live in the woods and survive.
I know
basically. Yeah,
I know I could.
I was going to ask you, do you still think you could? And you're obviously very clear on that.
I think I could not. I think I could go in the woods and survive, and I think I could be dropped off in any city with $100, and I could start. I could do fine and start a business.
So I'm gonna.
Well, maybe now. I used to say that earlier. Maybe now it's $500 with inflation.
Yeah, sure, I gotcha. What do you think about the average 25 or 35-year-old today? What do you think about their chances in those situations?
Well, they don't have the skill set I have, and I think one of the reasons I could do so good in the woods, I think they're in real trouble. I think that's, I often wonder something, and I'm not being rude here. I just don't understand this, and this is me thinking. I go down the road and I see all these people, according to what city I'm at, living on the side of the road or in tents or something, and they've got pretty elaborate places set up, and I'm not saying this conversation I'm making is not to give those people a hard time.
No,
for whatever reason, some of them want to live that way. Some of them are not capable of living other way, whatever. That's not my point here. My point is a lot of times I'll see them, and then 2 minutes down the road, I'll see wooded land. And I'm going, why are they living like right 5 feet from the interstate when they could just walk a mile down the road and there's just unlimited acreage? And no one's going back there seeing who's living in there. They're not. I mean, that land is owned by the state or some guy who doesn't even know what's going on over there because there's so much acreage. And I'm going, why wouldn't you live over there where it's nice temperate climate because it's in the forest, it's pretty, it's much better breathing. It's not right 5 feet from the interstate. And I'm going, they must be scared of the woods. They must say, oh, there's snakes in there or animals in there that might eat me, because they're not knowledgeable enough about the woods, about living in a forest. I call it the woods, but living in a forest. So they and I could be wrong on this, but if you got a tent and there's a forest over there, that's like almost a perfect fit. Let's go to the forest and put up our tent. Going to be even more comfortable in the bottom. You're laying on dirt, which on top of mulch or something. So I've never figured that out, why I see so many people living so close to the forest, but they prefer the concrete instead of the forest. I would get out there and I'd make me a fort. You know, you just pick up branches and make you a covering, even if you didn't have a tent. You can make you a lean-to or something, you know, and actually make you a fort out there. I mean, I did it all the time when I was a kid. So I think, to get to your question earlier, would they be able to survive in the woods? I don't think they would, from seeing that, or a lot of them wouldn't be. A lot of them would never go to find out. They just stay over there. And I would want to be by myself, I think, so I didn't wake up in the middle of the night and there's someone in my tent robbing me or something. You know, I'd rather be kind of hidden in a camouflaged wooden area. I don't know. So I don't know if that answers your question on that. The other question, being dropped off in the city and surviving, I think that's because I'm a salesman. You know, I grew up as a salesman. I grew up as a door-to-door salesman when I was a kid. I'm real comfortable talking to people. I could go buy stuff and go down the street knocking on doors, reselling it, you know, or come up with a service like, I'll take your clothes to the dry cleaners for you if I can make $5 every time I do it or something. So I don't think I would have a problem, you know, as long as I had enough to like live off of for the first couple of weeks to get going. That's what I would want the money for, so I could live off of it for the first couple of weeks. Maybe get a cheap place at like the YMCA or something. I don't even think they do that anymore, but a really cheap place so I could sleep comfortably, get up, take a shower, be clean, and then go to work. Because I think if you put in the time, you're going to do fine. I mean, really, it's just putting in the time to me, and doing it long enough. A lot of people don't put in the time and they give up too soon. You know, they just needed to do it a little bit longer, but they just said, I'm tired of doing this. And they just gave up too soon. So I think, I don't know if I answered your questions, but like I said, I wasn't trying to be rude to people living on the street. That was not my goal. It's just the fact that they're on the street instead of in the forest.
Yeah.
And the forest is so close, you know.
It's an interesting observation. What about, what do you think makes a great father and husband?
Well, number one is I had a terrible father. In hindsight, I think I was a good father, but, you know, my father was very self-centered. You know, on Monday night, I think he bowled. On Friday nights, he raced the family car at the drag strip. On Saturdays, he played golf. On one night, he played poker. Sunday, when we go to church, he would get dropped off at the pool hall. So my dad was very selfish. He was only worried about himself. I think being a good father is, like I was talking earlier, just a minute ago, putting in the time. You know, my daughter wanted to play softball and she was never good enough. So I worked with her every day for years and even built an entire team around her so she could get an opportunity to play shortstop. She wanted to be shortstop. People would come on the team, and we had a good team because I'm a pretty good coach, I guess, in hindsight. And they'd come and go, hey, if parents, can my daughter try out for shortstop? Because I think she'd be better than Lauren. I said, no, she can't. That's why I do this. I'm up front with you. She's never going to be the shortstop on this team. If you need to hire to be a shortstop, you might want to go to another team, because that's the whole reason I do this. And so my daughter went from being a kid that never got to play ever, and even when they went to tournaments, they wouldn't even invite her, to being, when she went to high school, she became the like only third kid ever at like the 5A or whatever the largest high schools are in Texas size, to start as a freshman for varsity. But I put in the time with my kid is what I'm getting at. I'm not going on how good she was or how great I was. Yeah. I'm talking about, I put in the time with my kid instead of doing what I wanted to do. I found fun and enjoyment out of helping my kids. And I think that's what makes a good father. If you've got that mindset that it's all about your kids, not about you. My reward was seeing her, win hitter of the year in 9th grade for the varsity team, seeing her in the paper, that was my enjoyment, not trying to worry about seeing me, where my dad would have been he was more worried about getting his trophies and stuff, he had a whole trophy case back. This guy's, he was 30 when he had me. So he's 45 years old and I'm 15, but he's more worried about getting trophies for him. When I was a kid, I got one trophy, ever. Never came to a baseball game of mine, a football game of mine, anything. So that's a bad father. That's a perfect example of a bad father. I hope he loved all those trophies he got. And I still loved him as a dad. But as I grew up and moved on, I realized how bad a father he was. I didn't know when I was a kid. I thought everybody's father did stuff like that. But he was a very selfish person. And you can't be selfish and be a good father.
That was really prescient advice. What about husbandry? Being a great
husbandry, the same thing kind of goes, but you got to realize it's a team. I'm very lucky. I have a great wife. My wife is a much better person than I am. People, whenever we go celebrate our anniversary, someone we tell them we're 39 years married, 39 is 40 years, next year 41. People always go, especially the waiters, if it's together, what's the secret? I say, marry a good woman, because she's a lot better person than I am. But, it took me a long time to, I had a problem with being told what to do when we first got married. But, I think the secret is that if you're going to marry someone as a partner, you got to listen to what they have to say and take their input. Either you trust their input is good or it's not. You know what I mean? If you don't think they're giving you good input, you shouldn't be getting married to them to begin with. My wife gives me great input. Usually she's right way more often than I am. She just puts up with my ideas, and she usually thinks I'm crazy on them, but sometimes they'll pan out. Like this made up internet money. She had a hard time with that for a long time.
Yeah, I could see that. And maybe she saw it as just another one of your worlds, and I've met your wife,
her
Kathy.
a lot, though. I couldn't imagine life without her.
Yeah, she's a fantastic woman. From the very first time I went to BitBlockBoom and checked in, our very first interaction, she was just incredibly nice to me and took care of me and treated me very well. And I saw how everyone else was just so happy to see her. And throughout the years, she's treated everyone, including myself, very nicely. So you're a very lucky man. Final 2 questions for you. What do you think about Bitcoin as a religion? I don't ask this that much anymore. I
think it is a religion, or it's very comparable to a religion. And I think that's a very good question. You have Jehovah's Witnesses. I'm going to use them as an example. I'm not knocking Jehovah's Witnesses again, because like I said earlier, I don't care what anyone does, just as long as I don't have to do it. A good friend of mine converted to Jehovah's Witnesses, and Jehovah's Witnesses, I don't know the details, but I know this is true. They only believe that only a certain amount of people can go to heaven. I don't know the number, but let's say it's 80,000 people, 100,000 people. I don't know what it is. But out of all the people that ever lived on this planet, only that number of people can go to heaven. The rest of them are going to be here on earth, but they aren't going to heaven. And I always give my friend a hard time. So you, Robert, are not going to be in that number. You're competing against the popes. You're competing against all these people, Joan of Arc, all these people. We're talking the entire time of the planet you're competing against. You are not going to be in the top 100 people. But even though Jehovah's Witnesses know that they probably aren't one of that number, they get on their bike or they walk a neighborhood like every Wednesday and go prophesizing to people, telling them about Jesus. You'll see them at train stations everywhere. Even though they know they personally aren't going to heaven, they do that to help other people. Really, I think it's because they're wanting to help other people discover what they know. And I think Bitcoiners are like that. Once you understand Bitcoin and you kind of get it, you're telling everybody you can about it, not because you want some more Bitcoin, not because if they buy some Bitcoin, it's going to go up from you telling this guy and he buys, $1,000 worth of Bitcoin, but you are wanting to help him discover what you know. So to me, Bitcoin is not a religion, but people act to it or treat it or changed to it or whatever you want to say, like Jehovah's Witnesses get changed in work. So people put in the time to help other people. Because really, every time you're like orange pilling someone, like I was orange pilling yesterday, they gave me a hard time. I orange pilled our driver of our drove us around. He was like buying shit coins, and I got him into Bitcoin because okay, I'm gonna go buy Bitcoin. I understand now. And matter of fact, someone messaged me this morning from this weekend and said, I can't believe you orange pilled that driver. So I don't think that guy driving that car, the amount of Bitcoin he's going to buy is going to make mine go up in value. I really don't. If anyone does, they'd have to be an idiot. But I think maybe I just helped them out. And is that a great way to help someone out? Because you could possibly change their life. Not today, not tomorrow, but maybe long term. So I do, to a degree, think people react to it like they do to a religion. That would be more of my statement. Not that it is a religion, but this people react to it like they do to a religion.
I could see that. That's a great way to put it. If you could orange pill anyone in the world, who would it be?
Anyone in the world, who would it be? I'd have to say it would have to be President Biden, I guess. You could orange pill him. Maybe he would change the political scenery up there and start talking about it all the time. Because if he got orange pilled, he'd be like wanting to save the world, right? He'd be wanting to orange pill everybody. So I guess technically that should be who you want to orange pill, is someone who could orange pill the most people. And so he could not only orange pill the most people, because he'd be like, you know how it is when you are really avid Bitcoiner and you go to a party and your wife, when you go to the party, says, I don't want you talking about Bitcoin tonight. Because you do it so often. I go, I never talk about it unless they ask me. She goes, everybody's going to ask you because everybody knows what you do for a living. So no talking about it. So could you imagine if the president of the United States was really, truly orange pilled and he was just all the time talking about it? Someone would ask him, because if he was orange pilled, when he got on the helicopter and he answered a few questions, they go, well, what do you think about Bitcoin? And for 10 minutes, he'd be talking about Bitcoin. It would change everything. So that's who I would want to orange pill.
Yeah, I think it's hard to envision, but I agree. I mean,
that would be the best person to orange pill. Who would you orange pill?
I have a tough one with that. Man, I was happy I got through to my dad before he passed away, and probably my brother, my middle brother.
I've orange pilled my sister. I hadn't got my brother yet.
I don't think I have a hard time with that. My answer to the famous person is Michael Jordan, because he comes with very little baggage. He's not seen as left, right, center, right. And he's just seen goodwill. They'd almost be like orange pilling Mickey Mouse. But I don't like the idea of this top down. So I think that, like, Joe Rogan, Biden, it's great in theory, but like, it's not what Bitcoin's about. It's not about hearing it from authority. And it's a shame that sometimes it takes authority figures to get through to people. Unfortunately, I think it's going to take pain more than good-natured people trying to help others.
I agree with that too. I just meant he has like the biggest pulpit.
Oh, the biggest megaphone. I get it. I mean, any of these people. But the question kind of offends me a little bit as a Bitcoiner, in the sense that, like, as Bitcoiners, we don't rely on what people tell us, Right. And so,
but as I said earlier, there's a lot of people that do whatever the government tells them to do.
Right. And there's symbolism, and there's also just signal. And, these are the kind of people that could maybe provide signal to other people. So it's an interesting question. I battle with myself. In terms of being able to provide signal, and you were on TikTok that went viral.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Gary Leland, the Bitcoin boomer, dominating TikTok for a day.
I think that thing's had like 50 million views or something.
Yeah, it's had several lives, and it's just amazing that you're on TikTok once and you went viral.
I saw it on YouTube the other day. Someone ripped it off of TikTok and put it on YouTube. I was looking at YouTube and I was like, oh my God. I wasn't even looking for me. There it was. That thing won't die. I was hoping that would die. I didn't like what they did on that. Because, and I emailed them, because of the title on there, they put the title, Crypto Multimillionaire Gives His Advice.
That's terrible.
Yeah, and they had no idea how much Bitcoin I have. Right. To this day, they don't. And I asked them, I said, could you at least change it to Bitcoin?
Right.
Instead of crypto. So they just made up a title, so I was very upset.
Yeah,
and I've gone to so many things now, and people.
That's kind of a disappointing title.
It was. I went to a wedding
even without the crypto. It's just not.
No. It could have said Bitcoiner gives advice. or something.
I was at Bitcoin 2022, and I was talking to a young gentleman, and we got into conversation, walked around together, and after about an hour of conversation, he was just like, "So how much Bitcoin do you have?"
I always say, "How much money do you have in the bank?"
Well, he's very young, so maybe he's, but there's no answer that you can give that would give someone more conviction, that would do any benefit for the recipient. It's just gossip. And
even if I told them number, how do they know I'm telling them the truth?
Yeah,
I can make myself sound like I was Michael Saylor.
Right, but the number could be incredibly low, and they shouldn't get less conviction about Bitcoin from that number. And the number could be incredibly high, and they shouldn't get more conviction and or be turned off by being late from that number. So there's nothing
I've had
they
people
can
my
glean.
own age ask me that. So it's not just young people.
No, it's not just young people, but there's different contexts of young person because they haven't worked their whole life. They haven't saved up for a 401k. They don't have wealth they can redistribute or reallocate. They're looking at opportunity cost of when they were born. So they're saying they're trading against you and what your birth year versus what can they do for their future and what opportunities ahead for them. It can't give them any conviction based on your answer. So it's just fetching. And it doesn't matter to your point, what the asset is. It's what do you got? And should I get that myself? And how you're giving me this advice. So how confident are you based on your portfolio? Well, us talking about Bitcoin, the concepts have nothing to do with my bags. It's just, we can be talking about the traits, the qualities, the network effects of, what makes good money. But at the end of the day, I think someone's looking for, okay, this person just said blah, blah, blah. Can they back it up with their own conviction? And will that give me some? And I think that's just such a misguided notion. And it also kind of, lends into, maybe they got in super early and they bought, 1,000 of them for 10 cents each. And,
and
they concoct their own
they
stuff.
probably wouldn't get into that big again if they weren't able to have lucked up. That's what they usually say, lucked up. Even if people who got in there early didn't luck up, they held those bags.
Or didn't. Or lost them or sold them or bought.
I'm talking about the ones who still have it. If you still
There's
have
so
it,
few.
And you have that many Bitcoin, you held some bags. Because I think right now it's a perfect example. I think Bitcoin, you could say, okay, Bitcoin hasn't dropped as much as it did last time when it went up to 19 and it dropped to 3. Percentage-wise, it hasn't dropped that much. But you could have lost millions of dollars this time, where the last time you lost thousands of dollars. You know what I mean? Just because of the dollar value.
Yeah.
So to have the diamond hands when it starts getting to these levels. Now, let's say Bitcoin does go up to $1 million. Oh my gosh. Do you even need diamond hands anymore? Maybe you don't. Maybe you're going, hey, I got plenty there. I can, but I mean, and it starts a bear market at $1 million. So what does the bear market mean? It's going to drop down to $300,000, $250,000. So you're going to lose $750,000 per Bitcoin. You're going to have to really have some diamond hands. There's no luck involved. I mean, you're going to have to be a true believer.
And I would still contend that, and coming in late 2017, I don't think I've ever seen a real true bull market where I've been an actual stacker. But I think bull markets are going to be way harder than bear markets, because in a bear market, you actually know what you can lose. There's a finite amount you could lose. Your stack can go to zero. In a bull market, there's the threat of you don't know what you can miss out on. It's unlimited. Mm-hmm. And the bull is going to really try to throw you off a lot harder in a bull market than in a bear market. I mean, the bull is going to be a lot more volatile and violent in an actual crazy bull market. I forgot where I was going with that one. But
I do that all the time, so don't worry. You're catching up with me now.
Yeah. So, I mean, I forgot where I was going, but
we've had a long show. I can tell you that right now.
Yeah, no, we have plenty. But
I've had a good show. I've enjoyed the conversation, but
I had one more kind of, but no, I forgot. It's just out of my mind at the moment because we just getting into it. But yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting how things play out, and it is interesting when you talk to people about Bitcoin, and they know that you're in Bitcoin, and they kind of want to they pull a lot of context from that. And I think that's unfortunate for the person who's trying to learn for themselves. And I think it's.
I have right now, I had someone that I was at a wedding with. I didn't know him at the reception. We were having dinner, and him and his wife were sitting by me, and he goes, "What do you do for a living?" And really, all I do now is Bitcoin. So I said, Bitcoin. He goes, "Oh, wow, I really feel sorry for you." and I was, and I actually, I think I'd had a drink. I said, "Well, to say that really shows your ignorance, that you know nothing about the subject." And he's like, "What do you mean?" He goes, "Because you wouldn't say it like that if you knew anything about the subject. You should learn something about the subject." And I felt kind of bad the way I said that. I would never say that, but I'd had a couple of drinks. So I apologized to him and I said, "Hey, sorry, I was a dick. I didn't mean to be, but I was." And but really, it showed his ignorance. It shows he knows nothing about it, because no one's going to say that if they know anything really truly about it, in my opinion.
Yeah, I remember what I was going to say. So one of the most astonishing tweets and revealing tweets I've seen was Pierre Richard tweeted a few years ago about how you'd be surprised how many Bitcoin OGs have way less Bitcoin than you'd imagine. He said, when I was first starting out, I'm paraphrasing here, obviously, but I paid off my student loans before I paid or stack sats. Like, I prioritized paying down, a 6% student loan. And in retrospect, that was not the smart thing to do.
Right.
But it was the smart thing to do in this new era, and everyone's telling you know what I mean? But I think it was revealing that not everyone has what you think they have. It was a lot harder to either acquire, obtain, keep, hold, whatever. But you shouldn't judge a book by a cover. But I think it was really nice of him to share that, because I think people make these wild assumptions.
And I don't know, how much Bitcoin people think. When I think of having a lot of Bitcoin, I'm thinking like 1,000 or Michael Saylor Bitcoin. But to some people, having 5 is a lot, or 10. I mean, so I don't know what people have. There's some people who are OGs, and I look at who they're working for and what they're doing. I know that company's not paying that much. So I kind of wonder why they're there. You know what I mean? I would think that if I had Bitcoin from as early as they got it, which I would have been buying a lot, I'd have bought the same dollar amounts, I guess, but I'd just have way, way, way more. I would be doing something else besides working for the man. I'd be the man instead of working for the man. But then again, I've never been a good person to work for someone else. I always thought I was the smartest person in the room and could do it better until I got into Bitcoin. And then I realized I was normally the dumbest person in the room. Because Bitcoiners, all in all, really, most of them are pretty damn smart. In my opinion, the people I run into and talk and hang out, like Greg Foss. And I mean, we're talking smart people.
Yeah, I mean, that was, I think, what pulled me in was the smart things they were saying, and I couldn't refute them. And I was attracted to the intelligence that was being shared.
Yeah.
So we call that signal, I guess, in some ways, but it's true. And I like finding the best ideas and let the best idea win, and the truth. And it's one of the reasons I could do a whole show about Bitcoin, because Bitcoiners it's not just about money. There's really smart people looking at a lot of different things.
And there's a lot of things happening in Bitcoin too. There's so many directions it's gone into. It's not like your show about Bitcoin would be people, yeah, I bought 200,000 sats yesterday and stacked them, and I'm going to buy 300,000 sats next week. I mean, we got mining, we got legal people, there's so much stuff going on. There's so many different, Bitcoin is intertied into this world in so many ways. And I don't know, just being a financial asset brings so many people into the world of Bitcoin, and maybe at first they came to make the money, but then they realized they could help change the world. I always say people who are into crypto in general are more worried about making money than they are anything else. They just want to know how much they can make by trading, whatever. But I think Bitcoin people, well, of course, they're like crypto people. They want to make money. I mean, that's we are in a capitalistic society, and that's what they want to do. But they, at the same time, realize they could change the world, help change the world. And so that's what I think was one of the biggest differences between Bitcoiners and crypto people is Bitcoiners at a point in time start trying to change the world, instead of going, okay, I can make some more money. And like I said, they want to make money. I'm not going to deny that, but they also want to change the world for the better.
Yeah, I hear you. We're trying.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see whether it goes fast or slow. You mentioned earlier, I think slow is probably going to be a lot easier and a better ride. I waffle on that.
I think there gets to be a point where it just takes off. It does take off.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be slowly and steady, and then all of a sudden the rocket's going to happen. I think at some point in time there will be a rocket. As to where that rocket starts, does it start after it's at 300? And people have been now buying because they see it and they believe in it, or does the rocket happen when it hits 100? Or does rocket happen when it hits 1 million? But somewhere that rocket's going to take off. It's going to go slowly and then through the roof.
Yep.
And I think the longer it takes for the rocket to go, the better off society is.
I agree. I think myself I'm not getting that up there in age, but I do want to see it faster, just in my high time preference nature, and I want more from my lifetime and my kids'
I want to see it
lifetime.
before I die, dude.
Yeah,
I'm closer than you are. That's my wife always goes. She goes, I can't believe this. We finally have this great asset. I'm paraphrasing this. We have this great asset, and here we are. We're almost 70. We're not going to get to enjoy it. I said, yeah, we will. We'll.
I think you will. And I think that's what Balaji's getting at. And I don't know if he's a scammer or a grifter or what his thing is, but I don't think it's that out of hand that one day this thing is going to go parabolic at a level we haven't seen.
I would like to take that bet. That's like an easy bet for me. Number one, if I lose, it goes two ways.
Yep.
Number one, if I lose the bet, right? Or if he loses the bet, I get $1 million, right? If he loses, he gives me $1 million. If he wins, well, my Bitcoin are worth $1 million each. I'm just going to sell one, and I'll have somebody left over. I'm not even worried about it.
He's in the same boat, though. If he loses the bet, I bet his portfolio goes up more than
that's what
the
I told
million
someone
that he loses.
Yeah. That's why I told someone.
If he can pump the bags, if he can 2x his portfolio, I'm sure his portfolio in Bitcoin is worth more than what he's going to lose.
If he can get it to go up $10,000, $15,000 because of this bet, he's cleaned up.
Right.
Yeah. That's why I said if I lost the bet, that means Bitcoin's now worth $1 million, and I just got to give him one. You know what I mean? And I'm sitting way prettier than I am right now at 28,000.
But what I find interesting is, at $1 million of Bitcoin, you're looking at 1 penny a sat. And
oh wow,
how come? And so like Jimbo on Twitter, he's like, that's going to 2 cents overnight. Because at that moment, anyone could log into Coinbase and be like, I can buy a sat for a penny. I'd pay 2 cents for a sat. Like, what is,
so
that
means right now for $1, what do you get? 4,000 sats right now?
Yeah.
So that would mean at that point in time, all of a sudden, your $1 is worth $4,000, or no, 400.
No, now you. A little too far on the show for the math, but think about it. A sat a penny. Like, why wouldn't you pay 2 cents a penny? 2 cents a sat. or 3 cents. So that's when you can get some real volatility. It's gonna be an interesting ride. I do agree with you, Gary. This show's been tremendous. It's been really dope.
I've had a great time. I really enjoy. I rarely do 2-hour shows. Rarely. I'll do any show, but this is one of the few 2-hour ones, and I've enjoyed it completely.
Awesome.
I enjoyed talking with you out in Miami, or not Miami, in Naples.
Yeah.
I'm sure. Maybe I'll see you in Miami.
I hope so. That'd be great. Well, before we roll out, let us know where we could find you and your work.
Yeah, I'm Gary Leland, I think everywhere, except for Instagram, Gary-Leland, but I run BitBlockBoom. You can find me on Twitter, Gary Leland, Noster, Gary Leland. If you search Gary Leland in Google, I'm like the first 10 pages.
I'm sure you mastered that. Thank you so much, Gary.
Thank you, I enjoyed it.
Yo, thank you for listening. Please make sure that you're subscribed to the Bitcoin Matrix podcast so you don't miss out on fresh and dope content. I want to thank Gary Leland for coming on the show. I also want to thank our sponsors, River, CoinKite, and the Bitcoin Conference for powering the show. Keep learning, keep stacking, stay humble, and stay laser focused out there. This is Cedric. Peace.